Oh, hi guys. Welcome to the Asbestos Awareness Master Electricians webinar. So the information provided is general guidance only and should always refer to your relevant state or territory regulator for specific legislative requirements that apply to your work. Today, sorry, I just got distracted by something. Today is about building awareness and reinforcing safe work practices when dealing with asbestos in the electrical industry. So my name is Mick. I'll be your presenter today. I've been in the electrical industry for 27 years and currently work as a field support advisor with Master Electricians Australia. I support members across Victoria and Tasmania. Also got Michael with us today. He's joining
Hi
as our
guys.
moderator. So we'll endeavour to answer any questions as we go. And you're welcome to put it in the Q&A or the chat box at any time, and Michael will jump back on and answer any that come through. Also set aside some time at the end for a Q&A session. So as field support advisors, our role is to support members with safety, compliance and technical guidance, and we have advisors located across all states to assist where needed. Michael, you're welcome to jump off in the background and any questions, as I said, any questions you have, put them in the chat, the Q&A. Michael will jump back on as we go. If not, we'll have the Q&A session at the end. Thanks,
Mate,
Michael.
enjoy.
All right. If you are attending from Tasmania, this session is eligible for CPD points through CBOS. To be eligible, you will need to remain for the duration of the webinar. So we'll take attendance at the end, and attendance records will also be provided to CBOS. We'll then issue certificates for your records following the session. So that should be hopefully this week, if not next week. But yeah, if you are after CPD and from Tasmania, you need to stay to the end of the session. Righto, what are we covering? So today's session is focused on asbestos awareness, particularly from the electrical industry perspective. So we're going to start by looking at some real incidents to understand what can go wrong and why asbestos continues to be a serious risk in our industry. From there, we'll cover what asbestos is, where it is commonly found, and the difference between friable and non-friable materials. Then move into health risks, legal requirements, and licensing before looking at practical controls you can apply in the field. So the aim is to give you clear, practical information that helps you identify asbestos risks and work safely around them. This is just a short video from WorkSafe Victoria. It is freely available on their website or YouTube. It's just about Brian Healy and mesothelioma. I'm just going to press play on that. If there's any issues with sound, anyone, just put it in the chat. Had previous issues with it, but let's hope it works.
I was an apprentice fitter and machinist at the State Electricity Commission. I believe that I was exposed to asbestos when the power stations were removing the asbestos cladding. It was such a great substance to use that everybody used it. Even now, is still having difficulty trying to locate it and get rid of it. When my GP said to me, "Brian, you have mesothelioma," my stomach sank and I said, because I knew exactly what it was. When I was walking out of the doctors, I'm thinking to myself, I knew it was going to happen. The boss would say to you, "Don't worry about it, just do the job, get on with it." Being young, you did what the boss told you to do and you just did your job. But the only one who's going to suffer later on down the track will be you if you don't look after yourself.
Yeah, so pretty sad there. Obviously, Brian's got mesothelioma, but as you said, if your boss told you to do something, you did it. So I think times have changed. You're well within your rights if you feel unsafe at work to push back against that. And yeah, just if you feel unsafe, just don't do the job, stop and reassess. So I want to start with some real world incidents on this slide because this is where the risk stops being theoretical and becomes very real. So across multiple states, regulators have taken enforcement action where asbestos has been poorly managed, and the details of these cases highlight exactly where things are going wrong. So in Victoria, a demolition and asbestos removal company was fined after asbestos fibres were detected across a residential site. So this included both friable and non-friable asbestos, which tells us the material was not properly identified, controlled, or contained. Once fibres become airborne like that, you've potentially exposed workers, occupants, and even neighbouring properties. Second one there on the screen, New South Wales, inspectors found untrained workers carrying out licensed asbestos removal work. There was no swims, no supervision, no appropriate controls, and asbestos was still left on site even after a clearance certificate had been issued. That points to a complete breakdown, not just in the work itself, but in the verification and sign-off process. Third one there, in Queensland, trades were prosecuted for using high-pressure water on asbestos roofs. This is a well-known prohibited activity because it breaks down the material and releases large amounts of fibres into the air. It's a clear example of either not understanding the risk or choosing to ignore it. I've got a short little video on high-pressure hose on a roof next as well. Fourth one on the list, in WA, an operator was repeatedly fined for carrying out asbestos removal without a licence, while falsely claiming to be licensed. On top of that, asbestos debris was left on site. So that introduces both an immediate exposure risk and an ongoing hazard for anyone who enters the area later. And finally, last one on that list is South Australia. So Safe Work South Australia actually stripped a company of its licence after it allowed demolition to proceed on 2 homes without first removing the asbestos. So when you look at all these incidents, the pattern is very clear. It's not one-off mistakes, it's consistent failures in basic risk management. So not identifying asbestos before starting work, using inappropriate or prohibited methods, lack of training, licensing and supervision, no swims or ineffective controls, poor verification, auditing and sign-off processes. Key takeaway from this is most asbestos incidents don't happen because the risk is unknown. They happen because the risk is ignored, underestimated, poorly managed. Righto, this is a short little video from WorkSafe Queensland, also freely available on their website or YouTube. Just a minute. It is about an asbestos cleanup after a high pressure water cleaner incident.
I'm here to talk about the 3 properties behind me that have been affected by a high pressure water event causing asbestos containing dust and debris to be spread over the 3 properties. A worker used a high pressure water equipment to prepare a roof for painting. This is an illegal activity under the Work Health and Safety legislation. The business owner or person performing the works is responsible for the damage caused and the cleanup. Families living in the 3 dwellings had to be relocated while the cleanup is taking place. The damage has resulted in the loss of personal items like couches, toys, TV cabinets, vegetation, trees, grass and fences. A licensed A-class asbestos removalist must be engaged to decontaminate and remove all asbestos-containing dust and debris. Cleanup is expensive and can take up to 2 weeks.
Yep. So with that one, that's not an isolated incident. That exact same thing happened on my dad's street in Sydney. I believe there were 2 houses either side. So we're talking 5 houses that had to get evacuated, hundreds of $1,000 of cleanup as well. So yes, highly illegal, high pressure hosing of asbestos. All right, let's move on. So what is asbestos? Asbestos is a naturally occurring mineral made up of very fine, strong fibres. So it was widely used throughout Australia in building products, materials and products because of its durability, fire resistance and insulating properties. The issue with asbestos is not when it's left undisturbed, but when it is damaged or worked on. So when disturbed, tiny fibres can be released into the air. These fibres are inhaled, they can lodge in the lungs and lead to serious long-term health conditions. Although asbestos is now banned in Australia, it is still commonly found in buildings constructed before 1990, which is why it remains a significant risk in our industry. Having worked as an electrician for about 20 years in Sydney, I can say every second or third house still has an asbestos backboard on their switchboard. So yeah, still a lot of work to go to get rid of it all. All right, friable versus non-friable. So it is important to understand the difference between friable and non-friable asbestos, as this directly impacts the level of risk and controls required. So you can see there the friable asbestos, that's the top one. It is material that can be easily crumbled or reduced to powder by hand pressure. Because the fibers are loose, they can become airborne very easily, which creates a risk of inhalation exposure. Non-friable, or the bonded one, you can see on the second photo there, has fibers that are contained within a solid material, such as cement or resin. When it is in good condition and left undisturbed, it presents a much lower risk. However, once non-friable asbestos is cut, drilled or damaged, it can still release fibers and become a significant hazard. Understanding the difference helps determine the level of control required and whether licensed removal is needed. All right, common places to find asbestos. So as electricians, this is one of the most important things to understand, where asbestos is likely to be present in the environments we work in. Sorry, my boss is messaging me talking about starting the webinar. We're all good. In domestic and light commercial buildings, particularly those built before 1990, asbestos was widely used in a range of materials. So common locations include wall and ceiling sheeting, roofing, eaves, vinyl flooring, and external building products like gutters. The key point here is that asbestos is often not obvious. So it can look like standard building materials. So unless it has been confirmed otherwise, suspect materials should always be treated with caution. So you can see there, I've got a few different photos coming up on the next few slides, but you can see here just how prevalent it is. You know, roof tiles, vinyl flooring, switchboards, plenty in switchboards I've seen, wall sheeting, telecom pits, internal wall sheeting, gutters. Yeah, it is everywhere in the older houses. So this slide reinforces how widespread asbestos-containing materials can be throughout the property. So you may encounter in both internal and external applications, and often in areas where electrical work is regularly carried out. This includes switchboards, wall cavities, ceilings, and older infrastructure. It's important to build a habit of thinking about asbestos before starting any work, particularly in the older buildings. So you can see here the asbestos cement sheet, insulation millboard was used for its fire rating abilities. The old roof tiles here, see the punching holes and running cables through sheeting, even in pits and conduits, fuse boxes and boards, electrical meters, cabinet boxes, dust left in the switchboard there. Some old porcelain fuses will have a little sheet of, and it is friable asbestos. So when you pull it out, it literally falls out on you. So you got to be really wary opening up some of the older porcelain fuses. I did some metering work as well, and asbestos not on that meter, but asbestos was found in some similar meters around the ceiling from the plastic or the glass. And so they had to be disposed as asbestos waste as well. So it really is everywhere. This next slide will reinforce that. So here we're looking at a typical residential layout where asbestos may be located. So this highlights that asbestos is not confined to one area. So it can be present across multiple parts of a home, including roofing, walls, and ceilings. For Sparkies, this means asbestos risk can exist in almost every job, depending on the age of the building. So yeah, as I said, anything before 1990 or even after that, you need to be wary of what you're going into. So you can see here, literally pretty much throughout the home. And I've got another slide as well, which reinforces just how widespread it is. So obviously this example shows a typical older home, such as a 1970s build, where asbestos was commonly used. So in these types of properties, asbestos can be found in numerous locations, often in materials that appear harmless or familiar. So the takeaway here is that building age is that key indicator. And if the property predates modern regs, asbestos should always be considered. So just a quick rundown on this, even the fence here, asbestos cement downpipes, walls and ceilings, the guttering, bathrooms, walls and ceilings sheets, dining and kitchen, so asbestos-backed vinyl sheet flooring or vinyl floor tiles, asbestos cement vent pipe and cap. What else we got? The telecoms pit or electrical pit, pieces of asbestos cement packing under the ant capping. And here we go to our switchboard, so zeolyte backing to the switchboard. So just you need to be wary when you are moving through doing jobs in older houses or older buildings. Switchboards are a particularly high risk area for electricians when it comes to asbestos. So in older installations, asbestos was commonly used in meter panels, backing boards, busbar supports, flash guards, and internal linings. You may also encounter asbestos dust and debris, especially if the board has been disturbed previously. So the risk here is not just the presence of asbestos, but the likelihood of disturbing it while carrying out electrical work. This is why extra care, assessment, and controls are critical when working on or around older switchboards. So, went too far. This was sort of touched on this before, but seen plenty of switchboards with, the asbestos board dust down the bottom. So always carry, wet wipes, even carry asbestos bags with you. You want P2 masks in your car. There's plenty of backings as well of switchboards, the asbestos cement sheet. And as I said before, it can be found in fuse boxes in the actual porcelain fuses as well, and even on metering equipment. Yeah. So obviously asbestos becomes dangerous when it is disturbed. So common activities that can release fibres include drilling, cutting, sanding, or breaking materials that contain asbestos. Other causes include demolition or refurb work, removing fixtures, and then even the accidental damage. So aging materials and water damage can also weaken asbestos-containing materials, making them more likely to release fibres. So I guess the key message here is that even routine electrical tasks can disturb asbestos if proper controls are not in place. All right, plenty of health risks with asbestos. It is a health risk when fibres become airborne and are inhaled. So if materials are in good condition and left undisturbed, the risk is relatively low. However, once fibres are released and inhaled, they can lodge in the lungs and lead to serious disease such as asbestosis, mesothelioma, and lung cancer. So these conditions often take many years to develop, which is why exposure is sometimes underestimated. So I have heard 20, 25, 30 years for, mesothelioma or asbestos to develop after exposure. The level of risk depends on the amount and frequency of exposure. The safest approach is always to prevent fibre release in the first place. Legislation. So there are clear legal requirements around managing asbestos in the workplace. They do come from the WHS Act and Regulations, along with the relevant state codes of practice and compliance codes. So most states will have their own codes of practice and compliance codes for managing asbestos. You can also reach out to us here at MEA to point you in the right direction to get access to them, but they are all freely available on safety regulated websites. So these laws place duties on those in control of workplaces to identify asbestos, manage the risks, and ensure it is not disturbed without proper controls. For electricians, this means understanding your responsibilities and ensuring compliance with both workplace safety laws and industry standards. Licensing for asbestos, probably not too relevant for us. We're talking friable here for most of them. Anyway, licensing requirements depend on the type and amount of asbestos being handled. So A-class licenses are required for removal of all types of asbestos, including friable materials, which present obviously the highest risk. B-class license allows for the removal of non-friable or bonded asbestos, such as cement sheeting and similar materials. And unlicensed individuals are only permitted to remove very small amounts of non-friable asbestos and must still follow that strict safety procedures and legal requirements. So understanding licensing is critical, as carrying out work outside your license conditions can lead to serious safety risks and penalties. I know in Victoria, you can remove non-friable asbestos up to 10 metres squared. I'm not too sure on the other states, but if you need advice on that, reach out to us, or it's a quick Google search for your state safety regulator. For asbestos registers are key documents used to identify and manage asbestos in workplaces. So it must be prepared and maintained by the person with management or control of the workplace, and it's also required to be kept up to date. So the register includes information on known or assumed asbestos, locations, condition, and any previous removal or testing. So for electricians, checking the asbestos register before starting work is essential. So obviously your domestic premises probably not going to have it. Domestic units will, maybe if it's an older building, they should have it in the foyer there. And commercial, some of the older commercial buildings will have the asbestos register. But highly recommend you check that. Worked in hospitals as well, where they've had asbestos registers. Highly recommend you check it. As I said, just to be aware of what you're getting yourself into. They do provide critical information that helps you identify the risk early and plan your work to avoid disturbing the asbestos. Can't see any questions come in, but if you've got any, feel free to put them in, and we'll get any. Just checking. Yeah, that's Michael's question. All right. So responsibilities. I haven't moved slide. All right, responsibilities, PCBU and worker responsibilities. So managing asbestos risk is a shared responsibility between both the PCBU or employer and the workers. So from a PCBU perspective, there is a duty to ensure health and safety so far as is reasonably practicable. This includes identifying asbestos, maintaining an asbestos register, ensuring it is not disturbed, and putting appropriate controls in place. PCBUs must also provide information, training, instruction, and supervision so workers can carry out their tasks safely. From a worker perspective, there is a responsibility to take reasonable care for their own health and safety and not to put others at risk. So workers must also follow the procedures, check the asbestos register before starting work, use the controls and PPE provided, and stop work if asbestos is suspected or damaged. Both roles are critical. If either side fails, the risk increases significantly. Just going to have a drink before we move on. This flowchart is on our website, so you can all access that. A nice little guide there. But before starting any work where asbestos may be present, there are a number of key questions that need to be considered. So starting off, is there an asbestos register for the site? And have you reviewed it? So is the material non-friable, and is the area small enough to be legally worked on without a license? Are you trained in asbestos identification, safe handling and control measures? Can you comply with the legal requirements for safe removal and disposal? If the answer to any of these questions is no, then the work needs to stop. So taking the time to assess these factors before starting is one of the most effective ways to prevent exposure. All right, hierarchy of control. If you've previously been to any of our webinars, this is the exact same slide used for all. Cornerstone of safety in Australia. You can see there that is from Safe Work Australia. So The hierarchy of control is a key framework for managing risk and should always be applied when dealing with asbestos. You can see the top there is elimination. Obviously, that's the most effective control. In this context, that means removing the asbestos before any work begins. If elimination isn't reasonably practicable, the next step is substitution. So changing the way the work is done to avoid disturbing the asbestos. Isolation involves separating people from the hazards, such as restricting access or setting up exclusion zones. Engineering controls focus on physically controlling the hazards, such as sealing or enclosing asbestos materials or using dust suppression methods. Admin controls include procedures, training, supervision, and planning, such as SWIMs and risk assessments. And finally, PPE, last line of defense. So it does help reduce the exposure, but it does not remove the hazard. The goal is always to apply the highest level of control that is reasonably practicable. Righto, elimination is the most effective way to manage asbestos risk. One sec. Sorry, my daughter is home. The joys of working from a home office sometimes. All right, elimination is the most effective way to manage asbestos risk. This involves removing the asbestos completely before any work begins, so there is no risk of exposure during the task. So where possible, work should be planned so that asbestos is removed by a licensed professional prior to electrical work being carried out. If the hazard is eliminated, the risk is removed. Obviously, that's always the preferred outcome, not always feasible. Substitution. So substitution involves changing the way the work is carried out to avoid disturbing the asbestos. So for electricians, this might mean using surface-mounted conduit instead of running cables through walls or ceiling that contain asbestos. It could also involve using existing penetrations instead of creating new ones, or installing equipment in a way that avoids fixing into asbestos-containing materials. The aim is to complete the task without disturbing the material at all. Isolation. So isolation involves separating people from asbestos to prevent exposure. So this can include setting up exclusion zones, using barriers or barricades, and displaying clear warning signage. Access should be restricted to authorised personnel only, and areas containing asbestos may need to be sealed or locked. Isolation is particularly important where asbestos cannot be removed immediately, as it helps prevent that accidental disturbance. Engineering controls focus on controlling the hazard at the source. So this includes methods such as encapsulating, sealing asbestos materials, closing them to prevent fibre release, and using wet methods to suppress dust. In some cases, ventilation systems or negative pressure units may be used to control airborne fibres. These controls are generally more reliable than admin controls because they do not rely solely on human behaviour. All right, moving on to admin controls. So I've got 2 slides on this one. So these generally involve systems and procedures designed to manage asbestos risks. So this includes maintaining and reviewing the asbestos register, developing safe work procedures, adhering to high-risk SWIMs, and ensuring appropriate training and supervision is in place. So other examples include permits, signage, access controls, and planning work to minimise exposure. While these controls are important, they rely on people consistently following the processes, which is why they sit lower in that hierarchy. All right, SWIMs and risk assessments are key admin tools for managing asbestos risks. So a SWIMS outlines the high-risk work being carried out, the hazard involved, and the control measures required to complete the task safely. Risk assessments are used to identify hazards, assess the level of risk, and determine appropriate controls. So these documents help ensure work is properly planned and carried out in controlled and compliant manner. And finally, onto PPE. So as I said before, PPE is the last line of defense when managing risks. So this includes items such as P2 respirators, disposable coveralls, gloves, and boot covers. PPE helps reduce the risk of inhaling fibers or coming into contact with contaminated materials. However, it is important to remember that PPE does not remove the hazard, so it should always be used in combination with those higher level controls. Asbestos kits, I believe you can get these quite a few places, but they are used for minor or unplanned contact with asbestos. So they're not a substitute for license removal. Typical contents you can see there include respirators, disposable coveralls, gloves, boot covers, asbestos waste bags, duct tape, plastic sheeting, and cleaning materials. So these items are used to contain and manage small amounts of asbestos safely. It's important to understand the limitations of these kits and ensure they are only used in situations where it is legally permitted. So I've got a short video on this in a few slides, or next slide by the look of it. But when drilling into asbestos-containing material, the goal is to minimize that fiber release. So this includes preparing the surface, using a thickened substance to trap the dust, and drilling slowly and carefully. So methods such as using the plastic disposable cup or similar device to capture debris at the source can help contain those fibers. After drilling, the area should be cleaned using wet methods and all waste should be disposed of appropriately. So tools must also be decontaminated to prevent spreading contamination. All right, this is a short 1 minute 20 video. This is actually from Master Electricians, part of our safety team. I've started it through because I just want to show you about the drilling, the process here. It's a nice little video, it gives you the process, really easy to follow.
Asbestos. When drilling asbestos, the following equipment is recommended. A hand drill is preferred, but a low-speed battery-powered drill can be used. Disposable cleaning rags, for example paper or cloth. Bucket of water and/or a misting spray bottle. Duct tape, sealant for example PVA glue. A paste or gel-like substance, for example wallpaper paste, shaving cream or hair gel. 2 0.2mm plastic bags for asbestos waste. A disposable plastic drop sheet to cover the floor under where you are drilling. Never use a high-speed drill on a material containing asbestos. The high speed of the drill can release asbestos fibres into the air. When drilling vertical surfaces, tape the point to be drilled and the exit point, if possible. Cover the drill entry and exit points, if accessible, or the asbestos sheet with a generous amount of thickened substance or paste. Drill through the paste. If a cable is to be passed through, insert a sleeve to protect the inner edge of the hole.
Yeah, so nice little process there, how to do it. Your asbestos bags should also be labelled asbestos. And we'll teach, I've got a slide on the cleanup process in a bit. I've also actually used that process myself personally, and it works well. So the shaving cream will catch all the asbestos swarf in there if you have to drill any holes through, those bonded asbestos backings of the switchboards. All right, carrying out minor work on asbestos switchboards. So planning prep are obviously critical with this. So you must be trained in asbestos awareness, controls, and PPE, and a risk assessment should also be completed before starting. The system must be safely de-energized and dust suppression methods used before work begins. So the area should be isolated with signage and barriers and appropriate PPE worn at all times. Work should also be carried out carefully to avoid disturbing asbestos, and all waste must be disposed of in accordance with your local requirements. So obviously cleanup is just as important as the work itself, maybe even more important. So you can do everything right during removal, but if the cleanup isn't handled properly, you can still end up exposing yourself and others to the airborne fibres. So one of the biggest mistakes here is using dry methods like sweeping, brushing, or even using compressed air. So obviously they should never be used, as they can easily resuspend the asbestos fibres into the air, undoing all the control measures that you put in place while you were actually doing the work. So instead, cleanup should be carried out using wet methods. So typically wet wiping the surfaces to capture any residual dust, and where required, using a properly rated H-class vacuum designed for asbestos. So obviously standard vacuums are not suitable, as they can actually spread the fibres rather than contain them. All waste needs to be handled carefully. So that includes not just this asbestos material itself, but also the contaminated PPE, the rags, the wet wipes, any disposable equipment used during the task. Everything must be double bagged in heavy-duty plastic bags that are clearly labelled as asbestos waste. The bags should then be sealed correctly using a gooseneck tie to ensure no material can escape. So yeah, double bag, and you want a gooseneck as well. So what I used to do was put all the asbestos in the first bag, gooseneck that one, put all the, my mask, and if I had any leftover wipes left, put them in the second bag, and then gooseneck that one as well. So disposal is another critical step. Asbestos waste must be taken to an approved facility. So in some jurisdictions, there are provisions for free disposal of small quantities, which helps encourage proper handling. In Victoria, where I'm based, disposal is not free, and unfortunately, we do see illegal dumping as a result. So on the roadsides or in bushland, and it just creates further risk to the community. Cleanup is a controlled process that needs to be planned and carried out with the same level of care as the removal itself. So taking shortcuts at this stage can completely undermine the job and create ongoing exposure risk well after the work is finished. All right, we are getting there. To summarise, there are 4 key steps when managing asbestos risk. First, understand. So know what asbestos is, where it may be found, and the risks it presents. Second, identify. So check the building age, review the asbestos register, and look for materials that may contain asbestos. Third, control. Implement appropriate controls to prevent disturbance and exposure. And finally, review. So regularly assess your controls and ensure they remain effective. So follow these steps consistently is what going to keep you and others safe. Moving on, feel free to put any questions in. I'm going to put up a quiz. So I haven't run this before. I'm not sure how many on here from your phone, but hopefully there's a few of you on the laptop. I just want you to scan this QR code at the top. I'm going to move this, going to make this like that. All right, so just a short little quiz, 10 questions. Hopefully everyone can see that. If you're not dialed in from your phone, if you can scan that QR code, we do have quite a few in this webinar, so hopefully we can get a few of you joining. No one wants to join. Here we go. You can use a nickname. Just keep it PG, please. Why don't you join, Michael?
I'll probably get all the questions wrong, so...
Use a nickname, no one will know.
So that, yeah, there you go. That's not me, but yeah.
Come on, guys, we've got a lot more attending. I reckon we can get above 10 here. We won't shame anyone. Oh, who did that?
Who do you think?
Thanks.
That was you, wasn't it? I'm sure you did it.
running the show, mate. Come on, guys. Couple more join. If we get to 8, we'll start it.
Hey.
Not having much luck here.
That's all right.
You guys
Yeah,
listening?
that'll do.
Oh, now we've had one drop off. Oh, that was you.
No, I'm here.
We had 6 before. We've had someone drop off.
That's
It's not
right.
going so well.
No, everyone's probably watching it on their phone, but anyway. So,
Yeah.
and I
Might
wasn't
do.
paying attention. I was just doing other stuff in the background. So hopefully I know what you're talking about.
Well, we may as well start.
Yeah, that's a
No,
good shot.
no, they're all dropping off now. Might be a fail on our behalf here.
I could come. What's this hour? This is all you, dude.
Yeah, we'll give it a go.
Yeah, give it a shot.
The rest of you can watch it. Right, no one wants to answer either. I think this might be a fail here. Oh, here we go. All right, only 3 people answered.
It was also cheap.
I think I need to move this, do I? I do. Yeah.
It's pretty catchy music.
Oh, everyone getting that? Good. Well done, guys. So we got Chris
I just want
winning
to
that
bet
one.
Chris. Yeah.
It's heavily weighted on time too, guys, as well as the right answer, obviously. This might surprise someone. I'm not sure if I touched on this, but it actually surprised me. "2003", that seems really late to me.
Yeah, it surprised me as well because you're actually wrong. It was sort of the 1st of January 2004 is when it come in. But anyway, that's all right. Close enough.
Good, well done. Right, we might get the overalls. Oh no, we won't. We'll get the overall next on question 5. Well done. Who's winning overall? I reckon it's going to be Chris.
Yeah, we're gonna have to hunt him down. We know where he lives.
Have to give him a
There you
prize,
go.
Michael.
Yeah. Yeah, send Mick an email and he'll
For anyone who's not doing the quiz, put any questions you've got in. We'll try and answer them. Yep, nice easy one. Sparky did well on that one. Yeah, so the key with that one was friable, asbestos. Yep, wet wipes or H-class vacuum.
Oh, you're up to 3rd, Mick. You're doing well.
We'll get the overall next. Good. With that, we will get the overall. I think it's going to be Chris dominating here.
That's it. We're gonna have to hunt you down, I reckon.
Yeah, I don't think he can lose from here. So, last question.
Just disconnect him.
Yeah, so who have we got? Here we go. Well done,
You
Chris.
You didn't even make the mark there, Mick. That's pretty
Dominated.
depressing.
Sure.
Hey guys,
Right.
so just a couple of things on the that was mentioned during it. With the asbestos register, it's actually a legal requirement for every building. It's slightly different in other states, but it's pretty much every building built before 1991. You have to have an asbestos register. Make sure you actually ask for it. They have to actually keep it, and check and just notify. We had an incident where they're working in a hospital. Mick mentioned that earlier, where they were cutting the ceiling open in one section of the hospital, and they actually had an asbestos register and it was all cleared. And then they went to 6 months later, went to another section of the hospital, went to cut into the ceiling, and they were told, "Oh no, this is part of, it's listed on the register." And they've gone, "Oh, hold on, this ceiling matches that one," and they've got, "Oh, we're terribly sorry." Now the only even though it was reported, this was actually up in Queensland, it was reported to WorkSafe and so on. They did an investigation. I don't know if there's any penalties actually to the hospital on that for not keeping the register. When I rang up WorkSafe and also then rang up the asbestos, I think it was Asbestos Queensland about it. The only thing you can do if you have that accidental exposure to asbestos is go into a register and sit and wait for up to 20, 40 years or whatever to see if there's going to be any health risk with it. And that's it. There's no cure. So if once you get in your lungs, it's not leaving. It's pretty much the same as silica. And virtually all cordless vacuum cleaners, if you think you're using a HEPA filter vacuum cleaner, it is not actually rated H or M. They're usually like a light duty or something like that. They're not good for silica either. And then if you do happen to use a H class vac, make sure it has a disposable bag in it as well, because there's no point having the vac drop it into a trough and so, and then you upend it into a bin. It just goes right against those things. But apart from that, that was it. Has anyone got any questions? I don't think there's
through, so we
none
might
have come
move
through.
on. You want to talk
That's
through
cool.
our member benefits?
Yeah,
Michael?
more than happy to go over it. Yeah, so obviously all our members with member electricians, they get access through up to, there's actually 23 standards you have available to you, including obviously AS3000, 3008, 4836, which is your working on or near requirements. So it's also got solar regs in there and so on. There's also an app, the ITI app, that you actually have access to with your membership. You have full access to unlimited access to tech support, as well as workplace relations and so on. You get business tools, which is things like access to toolbox talks and stuff. There's the master program, which is actually free to actually all members, and so on. And there's another slide is there on this one, which goes through. And the benefits, look, these keep getting updated. We've got things like this discounted pricing at Good Guys, JB Hi-Fi, Officeworks, and so on. There's a thing with, and I'm going off memory here, I know there's discounts on fuel. I think BP is up to 7 cents a litre, which for diesels, it's a pretty good thing. Bridgestone have also come in on it. You get 15% off and so on. The list is actually, it's always, look, we're always chasing up. We figure we've got close to, I think, about 3,500 members, and that's actually companies around the country. So our team actually just approach companies and say, "Hey, we've got access to all these members. Can you offer them a discount?" And then we just pass them on to you as doing everything we can to try and help save a bit of money.
Yeah, I've actually had a few members tell me they've saved a few $1,000s off new vehicles just with their membership. Commercial Good Guys account as well, they were saving 30% off air cons. So plenty of savings to be had. Offset your membership.
And with I was going to say the last one was with that staff, because obviously we are staff, we get access to it as well, which is the old perk. I managed to save a mate of mine about $500 on a fridge from Good Guys, and that was under the cheapest price. He did a ring around to see what he could do, and I managed to save him $500 off a fridge. So not all things will give you a massive discount, but hey, it's definitely worth checking into. We've also our CME platform, which is effectively compliance made easy. It's taken over from our older version, which was ME Safety, that's been running for about the last 6 to 7 years or so. It's still, look, we are continually developing and so on, and the idea is we're actually working with a developer directly. So we're trying to set up a system that just exactly as the name suggests, makes it easy for you to meet all your compliance requirements in regards to risk assessment, SWIMs, policies, and so record keeping, inspections, and all those things. Information's on the website, or you can either reach out to Mick or myself as well if you are interested.
obviously specifically for electricians. So
Yes.
Michael and I have had input into the system. So yeah, it's constantly evolving. But yeah, we'll move on to the next slide. We
No
are coming to
worries.
the end of our time.
And finally, we have our Excellence Awards, which are basically they're a national award for open to companies all over Australia. This QR code is for apprentices only. So even if you want to screenshot this and pass this on to the apprentice, we're actually doing this year, we're doing a Trans Tasman challenge, is to say that one 3 times fast, where what we're going to do is the winner of the Apprentice of the Year from Australia will actually get flown over to New Zealand to actually compete against the Kiwis. So
5 winners.
Oh, there's 5 winners. Okay, so
Yeah.
my bad. Yeah, so it's 1 from each state. Sorry, the top 5 becomes Trans Tasman, and it's not 1 from each state. It's across Australia. So the top 5 in Australia get to go over to Tas and compete.
New Zealand.
Which is in New Zealand. Yeah, well, it's Trans Tasman, so we know
You said
that.
Tas.
Oh, sorry.
Anyway.
Yeah, Trans. Yeah, no worries. It just.
Let's not
Sorry,
argue
guys.
here. We could do that after.
Nah, so we'll do that later. We do that all the time anyway. So obviously you can see flights to New Zealand, you get accommodation, meals, and the ticket to the Apprentice Award. So it is definitely something we're keen for apprentices to jump in on. We've sent this through to, obviously for us, we've actually sent this out to like Victorian TAFE as well as Tasmania. We've sent it to TAFE so they can try and drum up some apprentices to jump in. But if you think you've got one of the best apprentices around, and get them to jump in and give it a shot.
Yeah. Also, we've got plenty more categories. If you are an electrician or a company, you don't have to be a member to enter, apart from the Master Electrician of the Year. But jump on the website, easy to find, and enter. To take you 5-10 minutes to enter, I think.
Yeah,
So
a little bit longer to fill out the process, but it's worthwhile. So
that is the end. I don't think we got any questions. Hopefully everyone.
No, we're actually fine. So
got something out of it.
Pretty well.
My email address is there. Feel free to reach out to me. You don't have to be a member. If it's easy to do, I can figure that out.
Yeah, and Chris, I'll be hitting up Mick to find out what your prize is, because you killed it. Yeah,
Chris is the winner. Yeah, so thanks, Chris. But yeah, there's a bit of fail on that quiz actually, because we've had there's a lot more attendees in here than the 5 that joined. But anyway, a bit of fun. So Tas, if you are from Tas, we'll send your attendance to CBOS, and we will try and get the certificates to you this week. Might be next week at the latest. So,
if you haven't heard from us by say mid next week at the latest, and you are in Tasmania and you haven't actually checked the box, because that's what we're going off. If you haven't heard from us and received your certificate and do need certification that you're here, just shoot us an email and we can confirm against your login.
Call the main office there, and they'll put you in touch with us. So all good. There's no questions. We're going to sign off. Thanks all for attending. Hopefully you got something out of it. We tried to put in the nice, easy process. Like it's not always reasonably practical to get rid of the asbestos backing board for a full switchboard upgrade. It is a good selling point, and to upsell that. But obviously, there's some people that don't want to spend that money. So follow that process. If you do have to drill, shaving cream, wear your mask, shaving cream in the cup, drill slowly, the rest of it. And yeah, hopefully you guys got something out of it. Reach out if you need anything.
All right, guys. Thank you very much.